Is it us?
I think so.
Are we live?
I hope so.
Are we live? Oh my God.
That's the best fanfare we could afford. Hi, everybody.
So, welcome to Trek Talks 2. Last year's Trek Talks 1 was so successful. We raised $80,000 for the Hollywood Food Coalition. We decided to do it again.
To make a sequel. Oh, right. To do it again. Yeah.
So today, you're going to have all sorts of fun guests to meet, but I want to tell you a little bit about the Hollywood Food Coalition to get us started. And today you'll be seeing some interstitial short films in between live segments that will tell the Hollywood Food Coalition story. Very briefly, we started about 36 years ago providing street services to people in need in Los Angeles based on the importance of a hot, nourishing, multi-course meal every single night of the week. We have not missed a night of service in all those years. And we have, over recent years, added to our program. We now rescue about 2 million pounds of great food, and we share it with about 130 other social service organizations to buttress and augment their meal programs. So please give generously today to the Hollywood Food Coalition, but also, of course, you have tuned in to meet some amazing Star Trek guests. Who do we have on the show today, Bonnie?
We have some incredible guests today, John. We have Scott Bakula, we have Will Wheaton, we have Jonathan Frakes, we have Anson Mount, we have Brent Spiner, John Delancey, Q's a personal favorite of mine. We have Nana Visitor, we have Sirach Lofton, Terry Farrell, Brennan Braga. I mean, you name it, we got it. We have you, John Billingsley. We have me, Bonnie Gordon, and more. We have more.
And more.
Absolutely.
And tons of other amazing folks. Behind the scenes stars, including visual effects supervisor Dan Curry, who signed memorabilia we will be offering up today to some of our lucky donors. And we'll also be featuring musical performances from the frighteningly talented Bonnie Gordon.
It's me.
5-Year Mission and the Roddenberrys.
It's going to be fantastic.
What else do you have to tell us, Bonnie?
We are also celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. this weekend. And so on our show today, a man who spent his entire life in service to the need of others. And we want to ensure that our Trektivism movement recognizes Dr. King's work, to which we are all indebted. And we're thrilled that one of our events today is the Sci-Fi Sisters tribute to Nichelle Nichols and the significance of her life and career. Obviously, we already got to see them a little bit this morning, and I can't wait to hear more from them.
Great. And it's also going to be a tremendously fun day. This is like going to a convention without having to pay for airfare or hotel rooms or $22 hamburgers or $10 coffee. You get to be in your pajamas all day.
Well, I'm technically having $10 coffee. It's being delivered as we speak, but that's besides the point.
I myself am not wearing pants, actually, just so you know. That's how fun and casual we are. So make yourself comfortable. Support us with whatever size donation you're comfortable making. Hopefully, you're prepared to be stupidly extravagant today. Bonnie, how might people give?
There's so many ways to give. I'm going to name them all. You can go straight to givebutter.com/Trek Talks. You can also text Trek, that's TREK, to 53555. That's 53555. And you can also scan the QR code that's on the screen throughout the day. That's probably the fastest, easiest way to do it. But again, givebutter.com/Trek Talks. Text Trek to 53555 and also scan the QR code on the screen.
And here's the thing, folks. If it's a $5 donation, a $10 donation, that is fine.
That's huge. Please, that's a huge help.
Huge. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what your money is purchasing for us. But also, one of the huge ways you could help us is text your friends, call your friends, email your friends,
Twitter and your enemies,
Facebook your friends and your enemies. Yes. TikTok, Reddit, Mastodon, open your window, shout out, are you watching Trek Talks 2? Because the more eyeballs we get today, the more people who tune in, the more you metastasize our audience for us, grow it, the more likely we are to make our goal. We're going to talk about that goal in a little bit when we introduce our first guest. I'd like to talk about some of the amazing prize packages we were offering today, Bonnie.
Ooh, I want to talk about those too.
Talk
So
about
we have a way of saying thanks to some of our larger donors. Between now and the next appearance at 11, all donors who contribute at the $250 level will be entered into a raffle, and 2 winners will receive, John, drum
Okay,
roll.
this is pretty cool. This is from Dan Curry. Dan Curry, 7-time Emmy winner Dan Curry. I call him 7-time Dan. Dan is donating. This is a storyboard from Q Who. You may have heard of that. Next Generation, 6-page storyboard revealing the Borg cube for the first time. It's signed by Dan Curry. And additionally, this is a creature concept visualization of the cave creature from Star Trek Voyager, also autographed. In addition to this, we will be throwing in autographed photos, Bonnie and myself, and Bonnie will either write you a personalized jingle. Can you give me an example of what a jingle might be, Bonnie?
Sure. We're all here for Trek Talks too. Pick up the QR code, you know what to do. Donate some money and your time today. We're going to, I should have wrote this before and made this ahead of time, but you get the idea. It'll be like a jingle like that where I can...
Or I will write you a piece of doggerel a la Ogden Nash. And if you don't know what Ogden Nash
let's give an example of that, John, since you put me in on this.
No. Nice try. There once was a man named Max Muchnick. So if Max Muchnick wins this, that's how it would start. So we are looking to see if you are prepared to donate. Oh, one last thing. And a Hollywood Food Coalition hat.
Wow.
Now, when you're wearing this nifty Hollywood Food Coalition hat, doubtless somebody's going to come up to you and say, hey, what's that? And you're going to say, well, buy me a beer and I'll tell you. And they're going to buy you a beer. So technically, this package includes a beer.
Absolutely.
So there you go. We're looking for $250 donations. Everybody who donates at the $250 level between now and 11 o'clock will be entered into a raffle. We're going to announce the winners of all of the various giveaways, because we're going to do one every couple hours or every hour. We have 6 or so in all at the very end of the show. So, Eddie, stick around.
Yeah, you have to stay tuned to the very end. But of course, if you can't stay tuned, we're going to also reach out to you personally and let you know that you've won. So if you can't stay with us all day, that's okay. But you want to stay with us all day because you don't want to miss anything.
You don't. I myself am not going to leave this chair. I have a chamber pot at my seat. Okay. Am I oversharing?
Little TMI, a little bit.
A little TMI, but that's what I'm known for, Bonnie.
I know, John. That's why we love you so much.
Now,
speaking of people that we love.
Yes. We have a wonderful first guest coming up. And in a way, I hate to say the whole show is going to be anticlimactic, but our next guest is Roddenberry. Yeah. We're going to have 20 minutes with Rod. I'm over the moon. We're going to talk a bit about Rod's work and his, of course, amazing legacy. And we're also going to talk about his generous support of the Hollywood Food Coalition. Rod has been a supporter of ours for a number of years. And it means the world to us and the world to me personally that he's agreed to come in at the beginning. We've got a big announcement to make. And just thrilled to have him. Bonnie, any closing thoughts before we bring in Rod Roddenberry?
I'm just so excited to be here today and so honored to be a part of this. And I hope all of you enjoy what we have in store for you. I think you're all going to be pleasantly surprised by all the exciting guests and specials we have. And
again, it's givebutter.com/Trek
Talks. And text Trek to 53555. Also, the QR code right on your screen. You can easily scan that with your phone or Borg devices. And it'll take you straight to all the websites to donate.
Okay. We'll be right back with you very, very soon with our first guest, Rod.
Fantastic.
Roddenberry. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. We are back, and we are absolutely thrilled to have with us today the extraordinary Roddenberry.
Thank you very much for that introduction. It goes a bit too far, but thank you. It's great to be here.
I've only started with the encomiums, actually. You'll have to bear up under this.
Encomiums?
Encomiums, yes.
Okay. John has a very extensive vocabulary. I just nod and smile.
No, he certainly does. I'm going to have to point out each word I don't know, which means we're going to stop a lot. But encomiums.
I'm going to lavish you with praise.
I'm sure everyone in the audience knows it.
I'm going to lavish you with praise. That's what I'm saying.
Lavish me with praise. Okay. I encomium everyone. I'm sure I used that incorrectly.
I was asked,
but it sounds like something from Dune.
Encomium,
right? Yeah. Like the encomiums are coming, so we need to get out of here or something.
Yes, grab the spice and run is what I'm getting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
know, the writer Vladimir Nabokov famously said, once you learn a word, try and use it 5 times a day for like the first week, and then you'll know that word forever.
That's why my vocabulary is at a 5th grade level.
I was asked,
but your heart is
beyond graduate school level. We're a PhD.
Thank you for the encomiums. Great encomiums. Thank you, guys.
I was asked last year. I was asked recently to say what my highlight was from last year's show. And how could my highlight not have been the moment during the Tractivism panel when Rod so generously donated $30,000 to the Hollywood Food Coalition? He donated $30,000 and said, "Hey guys, let's match it. I'll match up to $30,000." So I'm taking the surprise away today a little bit. But Rod, would you tell us what you are very generously prepared to do for us this year?
Well, I believe this year, since last year seemed to be a bit of a success, I enjoyed the challenge. There's enough people on here, and there's enough generous people on here. I see that we're at the 6,200 mark. I would like to do something similar, but I think we've raised the stakes this year just a bit to a slightly higher number, since people seemed to do it fairly easily last year. Let's do 50,000 this year. If you guys can bring in 50, we will match that 50. Or let me just say up to 50. You guys should bring in more than that because it's an incredible cause. And I just want to say something on that. Those of you probably know John here. There's a difference between what John does, obviously, what I do, and maybe what other celebrities do as well. There are those out there who are willing to lend their name, perhaps make a donation, but they sort of, and I'm including myself in this, sit on the sidelines a little bit in terms of involvement. John and Bonnie, they're there constantly working at Hollywood Food Coalition. They're there getting their hands dirty. They're there making decisions. They're not like celebrities saying, yeah, I'm a celebrity, you can use my name. They're really doing it. So this is why I'm involved. This is why I think this is an incredible organization, because I know your passion, John and Bonnie. I know how dedicated you guys are to this. And you're not just sort of doing it passively, like, okay, we're just going to help some people. You're trying to figure out new ways and better ways to solve or help the situation. And you're working with other organizations out there. You're not saying we're the best, do it our way. You're looking at the other organizations and saying, okay, they're doing this section of it. Can we help them? Do we have something that complements, et cetera, et cetera? Maybe it's redundant and maybe we can talk about that. You guys are really seriously committed to the issue and trying to really make change instead of just passively saying, yeah, here's some money or I'll lend you a couple hours. So, I mean, this is why I support you guys. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I have to say that Rod very generously came and visited our campus. We showed the food rescue and collection side of our campus. We showed the wellness side of our campus. We showed the dinner side of our campus. We spent a lovely time with Rod having dinner cooked by our chef. We are so thrilled that we were able to bring Will on, our new chef, who has come from high-end restaurants and told us this wonderful story.
It was delicious.
You want to tell this story, Rod? I just found it very touching. The journey was, if you remember.
His story, exactly. I mean, he did come over to our table and he did share it, so I'll recall it the best I can. But something along the lines of him being, forgive me if he was a Michelin chef, but he's a top chef of some sort. And he basically said he was sort of sick of the hustle and bustle and being yelled at in the kitchen. We've all seen the TV shows where, the head chef is yelling at everyone else. And really, I think, has a passion for cooking, has a passion for food, but really wanted to do something, I think, that contributed to others. I mean, he wanted to be fulfilled and not just make money by being yelled at all day. And so when he found you guys, however he found you guys or you found him, it seemed to be a perfect fit. And he now gets to do what he wants to. He gets to prepare meals and be creative, not be yelled at, and actually contribute to making the world a better place. So that was what I got from his brief introduction.
And he's making some amazing food. It's really one of the things that we really aim to do is make sure that we're providing our guests with top flight food and always giving them a choice.
And really,
vegan or carnivorian options. He's just doing an amazing job.
And jumping off of that, it's not always just about giving back, and he's feeding people, but it's more about feeding spirits and feeding souls and making sure everyone feels like they know that they're cared for and that someone actually cares. And yes, John, the Hollywood Food Coalition, what an amazing cause to make sure that, the basic things for people that they need is shelter and food. And the fact that you all go so far out of your way to make sure people are fed that need it is just really special. So I'm just jumping off of that, and I don't mean to take over Rod's time a little bit, but I did. It is very special.
And I would love, Rod, I mean, Bonnie, please jump in.
Of course.
An extraordinary time for Star Trek.
Oh my gosh. Like 5 new shows of 50 plus years of Star Trek. People are now able to catch up on online and streaming and everywhere.
And they've got the second half of season 1 of Prodigy that a certain someone's involved in here. Which is freaking phenomenal.
Oh, Prodigy. I mean, I wasn't going to ask, but what's your favorite Star Trek show and why is it Prodigy? But but no,
I've said that, and it's not necessarily a lie.
I know it's
my favorite right now.
Wonderful show, but I mean, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but what is? It's a lot to process, and just taking over, the Roddenberry legacy. How do you sleep at night? What swirls through your head on a daily basis? There's so much happening right now in Star Trek, and there's so much Star Trek, new Trek coming out. How do you feel moving forward? What's to come, if you can talk about what's beyond
I am not the lead creator in any of these things. I am one of many executive producers, as you know. How do I sleep at night? I mean, I'm certainly not bragging. I'm not going to lie either. I sleep quite well because I do not have the weight of all 5 of these shows on my shoulder. My stress points are these shows in line with Star Trek? Are they in line with what I think Star Trek should be? Are they in line with fans think Star Trek should be? And are they in line with the Gene Roddenberry Star Trek? And the answer is they don't need to be necessarily on any of those. Well, let me say from my point of view, I want them to be online with what I'm thinking Star Trek should be. And I think the current 5 shows are, and they're very diverse, which is different. Sure, I think there's some that go a bit darker. Some are comedic, obviously the animated. Some really hit you where it counts, couple episodes. Mm-hmm. Some episodes are huge winners and some are kind of losers. And it's really interesting, in my last, I'm 40, I'm almost 49. And in the last, I feel like 35 years of exploring Star Trek, I've learned that there are so many different fans who love so many different versions of Star Trek for so many different reasons. My only major criteria is if Star Trek is just entertainment, I will say it's not my Star Trek. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to blow your mind necessarily. Listen, the best episode is when you sit there and you get hit with a totally different point of view that you never considered, and you see it, you empathize with it, and you go, holy crap, I never thought of it that way. That is when any show, not even Star Trek, that is when television is at its best. And I want Star Trek to always try to live up to that. I'm not saying it shouldn't have comedy. I'm not saying it shouldn't have action. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but in a mixture of all that, it should get you at the last part of the episode to go, you know what? I never thought of it that way, or that's something to think about, or, you know, just something to get you thinking. Anyhow, sorry, my rambling.
Absolutely.
Do you have other, no, this is great, and I know it's what folks really want us to talk about. Do you have other things that you would kind of consider to be sort of red lines or core values that you want to see represented? And what is the process like for you in terms of raising your hand to say, wait, have you had to? Do you? Is that easy to do or hard to do given the nature of the constructs of all the shows?
It's easy and it's hard. It's easy in the sense that we have a seat at the table. We've got an open dialogue. We have regular calls with all the, well, not all, but most of the creatives and executives with each show. So if something comes along that we feel is somehow a question, not Star Trek, or at least want to understand what their intention is. Because when you read a script, like you read anything, something could happen and a character could act completely out of character. You need to read the rest of the script because you might realize there's some whatever sci-fi thing going on that caused that character to be different. So I find
alien
it very
possession, typical
right.
Tuesday.
So as I write notes, I tend to write notes, and I'm like, oh, that's very uncharacter-like for this guy. And of course, later on, I'll find out there's a reason for it, so I have to scratch out that note. But we've got a seat at the table. We have regular calls. It's easy to share our concerns. I would say it's hard for everyone because this is, this is a democracy in terms of its creative process here, and there are a lot of voices and a lot of ideas. Luckily, I can give Alex and Michelle Paradise, and I'm forgetting every single other showrunner and creator. They do get Star Trek. To give anyone credit, Alex has put an incredible team together. And people who really care about Star Trek know about Star Trek and are thinking about the things that I just said. They're thinking about, is this Star Trek? Is this just entertainment, or is this something that I can get people to consider different points of view? And luckily, that makes my life a lot easier, and I can sleep better because, again, not every episode's a winner. But in general, even if you don't like a particular series that's on right now, it still has elements of Star Trek, and there's another series or a couple for you to enjoy.
Do you have, I won't say veto rights, but I'm sure over the years, so many people have doubtless pitched different iterations of Star Trek. What if it's this? What if it's that? If it's this, what if it's that? How does that process work insofar as you're concerned? And what are some of, if you can talk about it, what are some of the more outlandish notions that you decided, I don't think so?
Outlandish.
I'm
not sure I can. Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer the second part.
I've got one old fat flux, and I'll pitch that to you later on. But
okay, that might be one that I can sink my teeth into. There have been some Star Trek concepts that have been out and are floating around that I cock my head at, and I'm like, I'm not a big fan of Section 31. Or section, what is it? 50? What is section, whatever it is?
Section 31. You were right.
Okay. Section 31. Yeah. Anyhow, I love the idealized version of the future. I love Star Trek: The Next Generation because it shows who we could be if we work together one day. I love that there is a captain, arguably, I don't want to say arguably, but a leader, but he has put people in their position because he understands and respects their knowledge and respects who they are. And what this leader does is gets information from each one of his crew members and then makes an informed decision based on information. That makes perfect sense. I feel like that's the only way we as a society can move forward, is for us to put our egos down, even if we're leaders. You don't necessarily need to lead with an iron fist. You get this input. Hopefully you're intelligent enough because you're captain or the leader, and you make an informed decision that's in the general best interest of the situation. And I just think, for me, that is like my idealized version of our future. And I truly believe in Star Trek in giving us sort of that roadmap.
In terms of your personal journey as you grew into an appreciation of your dad's work and Majel's work, I'm curious, did you always find yourself sort of foursquare behind both the shows and the concepts of the shows, or was that a journey of discovery for you? We all have our rebellious teen years and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not sure this fully answers the question, but of course, as a young kid, I was the rebellious kid and didn't want anything to do with my father or Star Trek.
Were you the ones like, I'm going to watch Star Wars and slam the door?
Funny enough, I mean, when I was 3 years old or whatever, when it came out in the theaters, I loved it in the theaters. And of course, when the motion picture came out, I thought it was terrible because I was whatever it was, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and it just was just way over my head, not my kind of sci-fi at the time. But you know, I've told the story so many times. After my father passed away, I became very proud of Star Trek because I started to hear and listen. I started to listen and then hear stories about how Star Trek had inspired people, and was kind of blown away because my understanding of television up to that point was Adam 12 and Knight Rider and Starsky and Hutch, and there was very little depth. There wasn't anything that made you think. And when I heard that people would write into my father expressing how their lives were changed, whether it was, and I don't mean to minimize anything, but whether it was just not having hope for the future and gaining hope for the future, to being in some sort of horrific abusive relationship and getting out of that, and then from that being able to grow with this optimism and positive look towards humanity. Those are incredible stories, and I am so proud to be a part of that now. My biggest problem is I do get a little myopic and too narrow-minded when I think of what Star Trek should be. So that I'm trying to call it Roddenberry Star Trek, because there is a wide berth of Star Trek, and I have this personal notion of what this idealized Star Trek is for me, and that is my North Star, and luckily I've got all this range to play in if I need to.
I think Star Trek means so much to so many people in different ways, like you were saying earlier. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's not just about how each individual interprets it, but the ultimate core values of Star Trek is what makes it so special. And everyone can interpret that in their own way. But again, it's why it's so amazing to see all the work that, you know, the Roddenberry Foundation does, and people like John with the Hollywood Food Coalition. It all is trying to help make a better future and working together. Yeah. And that's all what really Star Trek is all about, and what we can be. For
those of you who are listening, I just want to make sure you all know Heidi Roddenberry is going to be appearing later on the Trek Division panel, and Rod asked us to talk about the foundation with Heidi, which is the reason we're not bringing it up here. Mm-hmm. But I nonetheless want to make sure that, Rod, you know that we, those of us who have been in the franchise for years, are very well aware of how much you do. And I have had a number of conversations with you where you sort of, you in a weird way, make light of the amazing work you guys do to make this world a better place, and the focus you have on big picture problem solving and the nature of what the major challenges that we face as a civilization is so much in the ballpark of what your dad would have. I mean, he must be, I'm not a believing man, but if there's a heaven, your dad's looking down on you with.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not either. But whether he is or he isn't, I think you could say if he were here today, I don't think he would be upset with what I'm doing. He envisioned that beautiful future. And granted, listen, I'm not saying he's the only one. There have been many people who have thought about an incredible future. I'm just saying, in terms of Star Trek, he envisioned that future, and I instead of trying to take it on and create my own Star Trek, I really wanted to figure out if there's more of a modern, current way to get my hands involved and get in there and see if we could find the individuals who are making that future a reality. And that's, Heidi will talk about that more later this afternoon. She is the president of our foundation, and I've got to give her, and of course, Lior Ip, Jessica Beebe, and Meg Bousset, incredible credit for the programs that they've been developing and running for us. We couldn't do it without them.
My horrible job is to say smooch and thank you, and we are out of time.
Oh, really?
And this is going to be the painful part of this entire day. It's going to fly by.
Just rip it off like a Band-Aid, John.
Thank you. Thank you again for your generosity.
Thank you, Rob.
Sure. Reminder to everyone. So you need to match 50. You need to get up to at least 50,000. I mean, I guess no one needs to, but I mean, that is the goal. And my hope is you'll do that. That way I can match that.
And look, it's happening. $7,000 coming in. Remember, givebutter.com, Trek Talks 53555. Text or scan the QR on the screen. And we're going to go now to the first Hollywood Food Coalition video. You'll meet Anali Ray, our new executive director, and some hack actor who stumbled into my backyard one day.
Thank you, Rod, so much.
Bonnie,